Hello friends, welcome to episode 118 of the Shauna Stitches Podcast. I'm Shauna and this is my crafty channel where I talk about all the things that I've been working on lately. Today is September 7th, 2025 and it's Sunday. What time is it? 10:23 a.m. and I'm filming here in my craft room on the Oregon coast. You can find links to everywhere you can find me, plus all the project pages that I talk about right down below. And right there you will find my email address, Ravelry, my project pages, any notes that I've made in those pages, as well as the yarn that I'm using, plus the start and or finish date if that's relevant. I don't have any finished objects for you today, but I do have one half-finished object, so that might give a little clue as to what I've been working on. Today I am wearing my worsted weight Ranunculus. I love this sweater. The yarn that I used for this is Lion Brand Wool-Ease in the color Rose Heather. I did go for the long sleeve option, and I don't remember if the option was to bind off with an I-cord, but that's what I did. So I love the fit of this. It's oversized and nice and loose, but still quite warm. And I love this pattern. I've made just two, I think. A summer version in a linen cotton, and then this one. But I would definitely make another. Okay, like I said, I don't have any finished objects to show you this week, but I do have some pretty good progress on many of my works in progress. The first one I'll show you is in this ginormous bag, and this is just a tote bag that I got from TJ Maxx, and it is housing my Marled magic blanket. And I have to say, this is probably the only kind of bag that would really work for this project because it is getting huge. So, since I last talked to you, let me see, I gotta figure out where I'm at here. Last time I showed you that I had finished section 10, and maybe I had started section 11, but I don't recall. I am so caught up here. Section 11 is this one here. The orangey fade. Yes, I do remember that I had started this because I was using the Zara ball for the self-striping, or really it's more of a gradient, but I was using that to mimic the fade. And I did use another yarn to pair with it. And then section 12 is the corner, so it'd be the bottom left corner of the blanket as you're looking at it. So that corner is finished off. That connected to sections 2 and 1. And I'll just insert a photo of most of how it's looking now, because the last photo I took was here on my fold out couch bed, and it's a queen, but this thing is too big for that. So part of it got cut off. Since that, seriously, I have all the things getting just caught up in everything here. I have started section 13. That is this yellowy orange section, and that is connected to section 9, which was the big pink section. Seriously, this is getting harder to show every week. So section 13 is a total of 46 rows, and I have completed 32, I think. So just 7 more garter ridges to go. And the yarns I'm using for this section are yarns that I've used in other sections, both of them. This one here, which is looking a lot more pink than it originally did, was from, I was going to say Clue 1. It's from section 1. Which is this one here, and you can't really see, but it was mostly yellow at the time with just a hint of pink. And the second yarn I'm using, I forgot to tell you, this is Knit Picks Chroma Twist. I don't remember the color name off the top of my head. The second yarn I'm using is the other one that I used for section 11, the orangey one. And so it was the lighter color that you see marled through there. And this is Craft Nut Yarns in the color Old Fashioned. So I think these look really nice marled together. And it'll be interesting to see now that I'm getting into some of the pink. But I don't think, I won't get too much further into it because, like I said, I only have 7 more garter ridges to go. And the section after that is another fade section. So I'm thinking of doing, well, in fact, it'll be very similar to this pink section, section 9, but it's going to be section 14, and it will be a triangle coming off of here. So I think it'll be like this, maybe. It's very difficult to envision at this point. But I'm thinking of doing that in reds. So you'll have the yellowy orange on one side of it, and I don't know if it really butts up to the blue much, but it does become a challenge to figure out what colors to pair next to one another, because I obviously have to work with the constraints of my stash. And part of me a couple times has been like thinking about pulling more yarn out, but I'm trying to really use the stuff that I set aside. I don't know, maybe I will go purple instead. It kind of depends on how much yarn I need, which is another thing. It's just kind of a guessing game. Several people have made notes about how much yarn they use per section, and I'm making notes about how much I use, but so much of that is dependent on how, what yarns you're using, the weights of the yarn, because even fingering weight, it all varies slightly. Of course, your gauge, your tension, all of that, and how accurate your scale is. So it still is a bit of a guessing game, especially for those fades. Okay, so the next project I have to show you is in a fairly large project bag. And this is my Pressed Flowers pullover. I have made really good progress on this since I showed you last. I have just split for the sleeves. I have that much of the body done. And let's see, this is actually the front. Not that it matters too much. I did try it on for fit. It is not coming out as oversized as pattern says it should be, or my gauge swatch says it should be, but it does fit, and I think it's going to be just fine. I did steam block it, but I didn't wet block it. Even when I do wet block, I don't aggressively stretch anything, but just with wear, it does kind of stretch out. This is all non-superwash yarns though, so I don't expect it to grow as much as some things. Let's see, my yarns are Skeinz Poppy in the color Samphire. And after recording the last episode where I told you I didn't know what Samphire was, if you were looking at the screen, I did put it across there. But Samphire is apparently a seaweed that looks like asparagus. And I would say that that color, for what I'm envisioning in my mind that to look like, I think it's very accurate. And it makes for a perfect grassy or leafy green, in my opinion. My contrast yarn is, again, Skeinz Pulse in the color Flutter. So those are my 2 yarns, and of course this one is color changing, so all kinds of different combinations. I was thinking of, after finishing the last 2 skeins that I had attached, because those are just 50-gram balls, I was going to start a sleeve, but then I had to attach more because, I don't know why, I guess because I was just so close to where I split for the sleeves. I just wanted a little bit more length before I did that. So I'm not sure if I'm going to finish those 50-gram skeins, and of course they won't run out at the same time. It would just be nice not to have 4 balls of yarn connected at once. but I really do like to work on sleeves prior to finishing the body. It just makes it easier. So I think actually that's probably going to be the next thing that I do on this. Um, I find myself just getting so captivated by one project at a time that it makes it hard to switch to the other one. I was working on this like a mad woman and totally neglecting my blanket, and then started working on my blanket, and now it's hard to pick this up. So since I film every 2 weeks, what I did this time anyway was I basically worked on my pressed flowers for a week, and then now I've been working on my Marled magic for a week. And that just works really well for me to focus on one thing. During the week, I don't have that much dedicated knitting time, and so I definitely don't have enough to split between 2 projects. And then on the weekends, when I have a bit more time, I find myself just really getting in the groove and wanting to focus. One thing that could change that, I suppose, a little bit is if I finish a section of the Marled Magic blanket and I can't photograph it for a while, then I could work on my sweater. But I do like to get photos after finishing each section of that blanket. It's just fun to watch it grow and progress and kind of see the overall picture, because as it's all bunched up and sat on my lap, I don't get that. So it's nice just to see that. The next project I have to show you is quite an old one. In fact, this is the only project, no, I can't say that. It's one of the only projects that I've cast on in 2025 that I haven't finished. The other 2 I've just shown you, so those are currently being worked on. The other are my blueberry waffles socks. And I don't remember exactly when I started these. I did forget to include that in the notes I'm looking at, but before I upload those, I will try to remember to do that. I do have one finished, and that is right here. I love this blueberry waffles pattern. That is not what has kept me from knitting on this. I just really lost my sock mojo. That being said, I think it's starting to come back, and I did make progress on this last night while we watched a TV show, and yeah, slowly but surely it's getting there. My yarn is Stitchin Octopus in the color Mermaid Slumberparty, I think. Yes, that's correct. And all I have to do is just the foot and the toe. And so I've just finished the gusset decreases. So the end is in sight. I am happy to be finally making some progress. I've just not wanted to work on socks at all. But my next WIP that I have to show you is kind of what's helping me, I think, want to work on socks again. And that is actually my half-finished object project. And that is these. This is my reviving an old WIP project. This is the Serene socks by 3 by the Sea. And the yarn is Ice Yarn's Magic Sock. And I can't really tell you the color name because it's a number and I don't know what the number is. They probably don't even have this one anymore. This is very, very old stash. That's what the yarn looks like. And the second sock has made decent progress. Do you see that funky little, essentially single line, and then it just stops? I had a knot in my yarn, actually just this morning, right before recording this. I have been working on these while I'm walking on the treadmill. Since I told you last time I'm doing a version of 75 hard-ish, I will say I took the last 2 days off of that, but I'm back on it today. I just did a walk this morning. I'll do another one later, and I really enjoy being able to work on socks while I'm doing that. So it has really given me some revived sock mojo. And I don't have much to say about these. These are going to be a gift. I'm just working my way down the leg now. And yeah, I hope that they fit the recipient because I've never made this person socks before. So I like the pattern. It is easy to memorize. It's just a 2-row repeat. And to my knowledge, you can only get it off of Etsy, and that's where I got my copy. So again, there's a close-up of the stitch pattern and the yarn. This one didn't have any breaks in the yarn. And you can see it's like they tried to get the yarn back in the right spot. They just cut that dark blue stripe way too short. But I don't think I don't think the recipient will mind. I actually just wish there wouldn't have been any of that dark blue color and it just went into the light blue, because I think that would be less noticeable, but it's okay. It's just a sock. So that is it for all of the things that I have been working on lately. If you haven't seen, which you'd probably be living under a rock if you hadn't seen, but Stephen West has announced the yarn requirements for this year's mystery knit-along called Mystery Musicale, and I'm excited for that. Not today, but probably next weekend, I will be filming a recap of all of the mystery knit-along shawls that I have ever knit, kind of going over how much yarn was used, maybe different stitches that were used, thoughts on did I like them, did I not, color choices, all those kinds of things. And then at the end of that video, I will talk about my choices for this year's mystery knit-along, and I'm super excited about it. I think that's it. This is a super short episode today, but thanks for checking in with me. I do have a little bit of life stuff and books still, so I guess we're not completely done yet. Life stuff, I have changed schedules at work, and I'm still on the fence about whether it's a good thing, but I think it is. So I was working a 5/8 schedule Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. And now I am working a 4/10 schedule, so only 4 days a week, but I am working, depends on the day. Mondays and Wednesdays are my workout days, and Friday, but it's not a work day, so it doesn't matter. But so Monday and Wednesday, I'm still getting up at 4, going to the gym, and I'm working 7 to 5. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm working 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. So it's kind of an interesting schedule. Usually people at my job would have like consistent hours, but I asked specifically if I could keep coming in at 7 on Monday and Wednesdays just so I could still get my workout in, and they said I could, so that was good. And yeah, last week was my first week, which Monday was a holiday, so I was off. That was great. I worked 3 days last week with only one day having to stay until 5, and I can say it feels really weird because by then most of the other admin staff is gone. There's just a few people there, and it feels weird. It also feels late. I'm sure as we start to lose light and it becomes darker earlier, it's going to seem even less enticing because I'll be going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark. But I do think it's good, and I think having the extra day off per week is going to be nice. It should mean hopefully I get a little bit more crafting done, but every day I'm getting less done. I just get more done all at once, I guess. So it's just a trade-off. Ultimately, I think it's going to be a lot better for me to have 3 days off and away from work, a little bit of stress relief, hopefully. That being said, this week, my first Friday, of course I got a work call, and it was a pretty serious work call. Luckily, nothing I had to go in for, but still, it was not exactly a day off. Other than that, my life stuff, yesterday I went to a bachelorette party for one of my very best friends, and it was fun. I had to drive like 2 hours there, and then I was there for a few hours, and then 2 hours back. Just a lot of driving, which is not my favorite thing, especially even though that we have started the school season here in Oregon. There's just so much traffic, especially on a weekend. So it was fine. I made it. No big deal. I listened to an audiobook, which I'll talk about in the next section. But on the way home, I stopped at Naughty Lamb in Forest Grove, if you've ever been there. It's a cute little, well, it's not even that little. It's a cute yarn shop. They have so many things. And if I'm being honest, it was just very overwhelming. I'd been in there before, and at the time I was looking for something specific. I did make a purchase. If you'll remember, way back a couple years ago, I bought some black merino cashmere nylon yarn. I do not remember who it was by at this point, but I bought that and some mohair, and I knit myself a Musselburgh hat all in black for work. And this time I didn't have anything I was looking for specifically. Of course, I was going in there thinking I didn't want to buy a bunch of yarn because I am trying to stay ahead of my purchases by yarn that I'm using out. And there were a few things that caught my interest, a few things I'd never seen before. Unfortunately, I didn't think to take a picture or write them down. But I do remember there was one yarn that came in two 50-gram skeins, but it was tied together, and it was sock yarn. Those ones looked quite interesting to me, but I didn't like any of the colors, and so that was an easy one. In the past, I probably would have sat there and make myself pick the one that I liked the best, even though I didn't necessarily like them, just because I was interested in it. But yeah, I think I have made some growth thinking that I can go into a yarn store and not have to buy something. So pat myself on the back for that one. Then I came home and, of course, did some knitting. The books that I have finished since I last talked to you are A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is Hunger Games book 0. That didn't originally come out in the first part of the series. It was books 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think there's 4. But since then, book 0 and book 0.5 have come out. So I finished book 0 and I gave that 4 stars. I didn't mention that series is written by Suzanne Collins. I really liked this one. The main focus of the story was on, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I think it's Cornelius Snow. He's who in the later books he becomes the president of the Capitol, or is he president of Pan Am? Something like that. So it was him in his childhood years and growing up, and it gives some insight as to why he becomes how he becomes. And so that was very interesting. The end of the book, I did not expect to go the way that it went, even though I knew in those later books kind of some things about him. It's been a long time since I read that series, and so it was just very interesting. So if you haven't read that, I do encourage you to read that if you like the Hunger Games series. I thought it was a really well-written book. The next book that I finished was actually an audiobook, and that was The Teacher by Frieda McFadden. And I'll tell you, now that I understand that she always has a twist to her books, I was anticipating the twist, and so I thought, oh, I'm so smart. I figured it out, because that part of it, what I had suspected, became true. And then you get to the very, very, very end, and there's a twist that I did not see coming. No way I could have seen coming. And so Frieda McFadden gets me again. She just is so good with those. Anyway, that being said, I really did like that book. It's an icky topic. We'll just throw that out there. But it was still good. So I gave that 4 stars. And I have a bunch of books that are on my currently reading list. The first being Sunrise on the Reaping, which again, as I just mentioned, that's Hunger Games book 0.5 by Suzanne Collins. I'm reading this one because it fits a Kindle challenge for this quarter, and we had to read like one of 25 books. It was just a very short little option list, and I went on to Libby and selected the ones that I was interested in, put myself on the wait list, and this one came up. So it was perfect timing to have just finished the other Hunger Games book and now to be reading this one. And it kind of makes me think maybe I should then read books 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't know if I will. I'm not much of a book rereader, but I really did enjoy that series the first time. My problem is there's always something new to be reading, so it's hard to go back and reread. And then after finishing the audiobook of The Teacher, I started listening to the audiobook of Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. And it's funny. It's been kind of one of those books that I've noticed the cover for years and thought that it should be funny and maybe I would listen to it. And I'm finally doing that just because I needed a short-ish book that I could listen to while I was driving and that one fit the bill because I think it's a total of about 6 hours. I'm now currently, about 30% in. It's funny. I mean, I'm not a huge Tina Fey fan. I don't dislike her. I don't like her. She's just kind of irrelevant to me, but the humor is pretty good. It's funny because the book was written in 2011, and some of the references she made back then are just so obsolete already. One of them, I can't remember what she's actually like referring to, but she's talking about in the future, and is Glee still relevant? And I just thought that was so funny because no, Glee hasn't been relevant in a while, and it's just funny to think that in 2011 Glee was such a big deal that you couldn't imagine it not being a big deal. So anyway, just stuff like that. It's funny. And I'm still reading very slowly, not really much pages at all at the moment. The Beachside Inn by Fiona Baker. That was another one that is to fit a Kindle challenge. I think I only have till the end of September, and I know it's only September 7th, but that means I need to finish Sunrise on the Reaping and this Beachside Inn book. Those are my priorities. The other one that I'm reading is that physical book that I won, and that's called Wicked Dreams by Lisa Jackson and Nancy Bush. I haven't read that in several nights now because I was focusing so much on the Hunger Games book that I was even reading that kind of at the very end of the day. So that's everything that I have been working on and reading, and some of the life stuff that I have been up to. I hope that you are all doing well, and thank you so much for joining me today. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.